In this tutorial, we'll be using Python to create a line object in Blender. We'll start by importing the necessary modules, bpy, bmesh, and vector. Then, we'll define a list of vectors to serve as the vertices of our line object. Next, we'll create a new mesh and object and link the object to the active collection. We will begin by creating a new bmesh object that we can use to add the vertices and edges to. Next, we'll iterate through the vector list and add each vertex to our bmesh object. We use ei-1 instead of i+1 because for I equals 0, this creates a connection between the first vertex and the vertex with index -1, which links it to the last vertex in the list. During each iteration of the loop, we'll establish a new edge between the current vertex and the previous vertex. Finally, we'll convert our bmesh object to a mesh and update the mesh to display our line object in the 3D viewport. As you can see, the vector list we used earlier produced a star object, but the possibilities with this code are endless. By modifying the values in the vector list, we can create a completely different object. For instance, let's say we want to create a line object of a dinosaur. We can modify the vector list accordingly by specifying the coordinates of each point that make up the dinosaur's shape. Let's modify the vector list to produce the dinosaur object and then run the code again to generate the new object. As you can see, we now have a simple 2D object of a dinosaur. Let's say we want to create a 3D object. We then need to include a method to specify which vertices make up each face of the object so that we can get the right orientation of the face. In order to do so, we now have a new list called faces, which contains lists of vertex indices that make up each face of the 3D shape. The vertex indices are used to reference the vertices from the vertices list. We use the vector function from the Mathutels library to create a vector object for each vertex from the 3D coordinate tuples. Finally, we create the faces using the vertex indices from the faces list to look up the corresponding vertices in the vertices list. We append these vertices to a list called points, which is used to create each face of the 3D shape. The faces are added to a bmesh object using the new function, and then the bmesh object is converted to a mesh and added to the scene. After successfully creating a 3D isosphere object, we can now replace the vector list and faces list with the necessary data for the bool object. This new dataset includes significantly more vertices and faces, allowing us to create a much more detailed and complex object. By modifying the values in the dataset, we can generate a wide range of different 3D shapes and objects limited only by our imagination. Thank you for following along. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future tutorials, please leave them in the comments section below. Keep up the coding spirit and have a fantastic day.